was a Sunday like any other, at least from a distance. Sunlight leaked through the dusty glass panes along the whitewashed wall, catching on the floating motes of dust and the stubborn sheen of old polish on the benches. In the front row, Mama sat with her lips pressed tight, hands folded so tightly in her lap her knuckles blanched pale. The pastor's voice reverberated off the cracked linoleum, catching the swirl of a child's whimper. All eyes, though, were on me. I could sense them, even with my gaze fixed on the lopsided wooden cross over the pulpit. "Faith," Pastor Kamau announced, clutching the microphone in a fist the size of a mango. "Your mother said you wish to cook for a living." He smiled, but it was that careful, shallow smile reserved for kind lies and broken promises. "A chef, is that what you said?" His voice rounded on that last word, swelling until the crowd snickered in undercurrents. I gripped the hem of my old blue dress, feeling the sticky roll of sweat at my armpits. The windows were all shut, the fan stilled, and it was not just the heat that caused the damp, metallic taste in my mouth. Pastor Kamau's wife, in her elaborate galette, sat nodding at my mother, lips pursed over the gnat of a laugh. Faith?" Mama's voice, brittle but determined, piped up from her pride and outrage. "Imagine, after everything, dreams of stoves and frying pans." That was the opening the crowd needed. Mutters burst forth like popcorn. "At least become a nurse. Chef? Is that even a job?" "Unai toa wapi hia wazimu. Where do you get such madness?" Mrs. Mwangi from the market shook her head so energetically her earrings rattled. A boy behind me mimed pouring soup into his mouth, with mock exaggeration, making his friends snort. My baby brother, David, shrank into Mama's side. I tried to catch his eyes, but he did not look at me. Maybe the shame, maybe just pity. Still, I lifted my chin. "A chef," I said, my voice soft but not apologetic. "I want to learn. I want to make my own food for people, not just at home." For a moment it was quiet. I let the silence stretch. Somewhere deep inside something dug in, like a stubborn nail. Pastor Kamau cleared his throat. "We pray for our young people, that God may redirect you, Faith, into good sense for your family and our community." His eyes flicked down to his notes, dismissing me already, and just like that the bench under me became a hot brand of humiliation. Church let out in waves of laughter. Some of it was gentle, but the undercurrent was acid. As we made our way home, Mama walked ahead, purposeful, not speaking. The neighbors' eyes darted from their gardens, then away again. I walked behind, carrying everything unspoken between us. At home, Mama's silence weighed more than her scolding ever could have. That week, the whispers crescendoed. At the shop, in the market, even at school. "Chef Faith," they'd call in sing-song, "give us a taste." Still, I did not swerve. Every night, I scribbled recipes in a battered exercise book by candlelight. I studied borrowed library books, sometimes just staring at a photograph of garlic cloves or saffron rice for hours. Sometimes I wept, letting the tears soak the pages, then dried them in the night air. The day I left, I cooked Mama one last meal. Ugali soft as marshmallow, sukuma with a sweet tangle of onions, and cubes of chicken dredged in warm ginger and garlic. She ate in silence, chewing slowly, and when she finished, she rose without meeting my gaze. "Don't forget where you come from," she said, low and final. Then the door closed behind her, and I was alone. I had nothing except an acceptance letter. The Culinary Institute a world away. Garden City's new campus, a place almost mythical to me. I worked 2 jobs. One as a dishwasher at a little cafe in Upper Hill, another as a part-time assistant to a moody expat caterer who threw pots across the room when recipes failed. The streets grew familiar. the bus routes, the way the city sparkled with promise and disappointment in equal measure at night. The days were long. At first they would not let me cook. My English carried the weight of my home. My hands trembled. But one afternoon, the sous chef, John, cut his finger on a blade. The kitchen roared and spun. Everyone shouted for help. I found myself at his station, onions under my hands, the pan hot and insistent. I worked by instinct, the memory of Mama's chopping echoing rhythmically. By the time John returned, there was a bright, fragrant tomato stew bubbling, onions caramelized just so. "Who made this?" the head chef demanded. I stood, waiting for the snap of anger, but he only nodded and called me over. From that day onwards, he let me do prep, then sauces, then finally the pass. The heat, the hard metal, the burn of oil on my skin. It hurt, but it was a holy pain, one that belonged only to me. Years twisted and buckled. Sometimes, late at night, I would call home. Mama answered less frequently. When she did, she asked about money, about what I was really doing, about my soul and my prayer life, never about food. One evening in my tiny bedsit off Muthura, I found myself staring into the glowing blue of my laptop screen. I had entered a competition, almost on a dare, Africa's Rising Chef, a televised contest watched by the city and beyond. I told no one. I worked, I sweated, I learned to fillet fish, to turn out perfect mandazis, to balance the acid in a coconut stew. My hands became calloused, my voice firmer. My dreams narrowed but did not flicker. When I reached the finals, someone from the old neighborhood messaged me. "Is that you on TV?" I ignored it. My focus was trimmed razor sharp. The night of the final, the cameras blinking and sweat running down my back. I cooked a dish from home, chicken in thick coconut and coriander sauce, sweet plantains, and a side of spicy citrusy kachumbari. As I plated the last piece, hands trembling, I thought of that church, the rows of faces blank and waiting. I won. They handed me a tall glass trophy and a check so big it seemed like a prank. The next week, offers flooded in. Restaurants, investors, endorsements. My name, Faith Kamau, lifted onto the glowing signs of a new world. The first proper restaurant, Sanaa, opened in leafy Lavington, and people came. Years blurred forward. The skeptics quieted, then started to murmur in awe. But it was the first day I drove the old matatu back to the church, now 10 years older, heart pounding, that I truly felt myself change. I had called ahead, asking if I could bring something for the community lunch, a small token. The new pastor agreed, his voice brisk and polite. The hall, painted in brighter, newer blues, still smelled of polish and damp. The stone benches had been replaced with plastic chairs. Mama was there, hair coiled in silver braids, age carved elegant into her face. She did not see me at first. The crowd was thicker than I'd ever known. Word must have spread. I arrived not in a private car, but quietly, on foot, apron pockets bulging, pushing a battered trolley. At the front, the pastor welcomed me, recognizing the name, uncertain of the face. "Julie from Sanaa Restaurant," he said, using my business name, but I corrected him. Faith, just Faith. I opened the trolley and laid out what I had made, small plates, bright with color, each one a memory. Fried tilapia with green mango salsa, chapati rolled around orange-spiced roast goat, bowls of creamy matoke, roasted sweet potato donuts glazed with Kenyan honey, lemonade poured from glass pitchers. For a moment, the room quieted. People in my neighborhood weren't used to food looking like art. It took only a few brave children to take a bite before the adults followed, tentative, then amazed as flavor burst and danced. Old Mrs. Mwangi, still sharp-eyed, tasted the fish and stared, mouth open. Did you make this?" she asked. peering at me as though seeing for the first time. I nodded. She turned to the others. This is the girl they laughed at. When we had nothing, she said she would cook. I saw their faces change, some with pride, some in awe, but a few still carried the shadows of regret. A hush swept over Mama. Our eyes met. In hers, I saw something new, not just pride, something softer, the edge finally worn away. "You did all this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I nodded again, unable to speak past